Check.
Oh, it's live, Hal.
Here's the guy that is starting to figure the game out.
Those are facts. Print that. Tweet that.
We'll do it live.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Let's Go right here on the Chop Sports Media YouTube channel. Thank you guys for joining me. I'm Dave Sturchio, as you already know that. And of course, we're coming to you live from the Richard Lucas Chevrolet and Subaru studio right here in Matawan, New Jersey, otherwise known as Chop Studios. I hope everybody's doing well out there. I hope everybody's enjoyed their weekends. I hope everybody's, there's Joe, my man right there. First guy in, first guy out. Anyway. I hope everybody's doing well. I hope everybody had a good weekend. I sure as hell did, sorta. I'll get into all that as we go. But again, thank you guys already for checking out the first couple episodes of this show. Still working out kinks as far as like when and what time slots work. I know I had Scoop come in and he's already in the chat right now saying, you know, oh, look who it is. And he's the one who told me, hey, man, you're going to have to go at 11 o'clock because that's the only time I can watch. Or kill time during his work day. So I'm trying to kind of, again, feel out a couple more, options as far as time slots, days. I figured the weekend was very eventful. So why not just kind of go live at 11 o'clock, like the norm, to bring in some of the audience that used to come in for the daily show, which then became a 3 times a week show, which then came like a 1 time a week show. We got away from it. We do miss it. I know Chris misses it. That's not even a debate. But we're getting a lot of things in place over here at Chop, as far as the studio is concerned, as far as rentals are concerned, as far as sponsorships are concerned, as far as just getting the business plan worked out. So again, Sean Redden, let's see. Fuck Scoop, though. He didn't make the rules. You're right. He didn't make the rules. I make my rules. It's my show. So I'll be doing the show again when I can. Definitely weekly at one point or another, once a week. Just have to figure out when exactly it works out. A lot to get into. I do want to shout out Joe, who was in here before. That's where I started my weekend on Friday. It was amateur night, as everybody knows, St. Patrick's Day. You either can go to a bar, you can drink at home, you can do whatever you want. And I'm the one who's, I was saying like, oh, I got FOMO. I got to go out to the bars. I got to go out more. I had no desire. My buddy Mark was like, let's go here. And I'm like, I was going to do it too. I was going to go out to, what was it? Stage House over in 22. I don't know. Union? No, that's not I don't even know what town it is, but it's up there. I was going to do that. Decided not to, decided against it, but we all kind of reconvened over at Joe's Backyard Bar, which again, he made, just picture a shed that you would buy at the Home Depot, right? And he guts it out and turns it into a bar, and it's a perfect place to drink. So I grabbed some Stone Cold Steve Weisers over at the local watering hole, and I brought 4 of those over there, and I thought for sure, all right, I'll just drink these 4, pace myself. I'll be fine. It's St. Patrick's Day after all. So I know the crazy people are out there right now. So I don't want to get pulled over, even if I have just 1 or 2 beers. Lord knows what can happen. So I was like, you know what, let me just play this safe. Didn't play it safe at all. I decided to drink those beers and then more beers on top of that. But I did, wait wait before I can actually Uber home. So yeah, that was my Friday. And unfortunately, I was hungover all the way into Saturday around 2 in the afternoon, 3 in the afternoon. I did everything I could. I don't know if anybody has the perfect remedy for a hangover, but I was trying everything under the sun, and it wasn't working. And the problem was I had my WrestlePro show, which we'll get into in a second, in a couple minutes. And I was like, dude, I got to shake this. I have to be loud. I have to have my voice. I have to have this energy. And all night, I was just like, all day, I was like, this isn't going to work. This is going to suck. It's going to be my worst performance of all time. But I shook it off. I drank the water, the Gatorades, everything else under the sun, trying to get this thing ready to go. And by this thing, I mean voice and energy. So that was my Friday. So I hope everybody was safe out there for St. Patrick's Day. I know it is an amateur night. A lot of people like to drink and have a good time, which is great. I just don't want anybody getting in trouble. So Uber all day. All right. Let's get into what I want to talk about today. And obviously, right off the rip, Brandon Cooks to the Dallas Cowboys. Now, look, this is basically a free agency segment because I do want to touch on a lot of things that have been happening. But I was at the gym on Sunday morning when I got the text from Gooch. Usually I get updates faster than anybody else, but Gooch has about 48,000 apps, which is why his phone doesn't ever work. And it blocks up and clogs up his entire phone. So that's why he never actually answers me on time, or maybe he's just blatantly ignoring me. But I will say that he was the one to break the news to me mid-set, and I was that guy that I hated the gym. I was at the gym, and I was doing my sets, and I get a text, and I see it's Gooch, and I'm like, oh, maybe it's business-related. I open up my phone, and it's him telling me Cooks to Dallas for nothing. And I was like, what? So here I am. I stopped my set. I get on my phone, get on the Twitter, and sure as hell, the Dallas Cowboys all of a sudden, I don't know who this team is, really. I really don't know, because out of nowhere, Twitter universe, Cowboys Nation on Twitter has crucified Stephen Jones over the last couple of years. I guess my lifetime, really, since the Super Bowls, but they've never been active. They've never been active in free agency ever. It's just not their thing. It's not their way. They're always like, we like our guys. We always like to build through the draft. Right? So all of a sudden, a week ago when it starts, the Cowboys took one of their comp picks in the 5th round and dished it off to Indy, and all of a sudden you got Stephon Gilmore, cornerback 2. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like the Cowboys are all right. Like, here we are. Here we go. Let's do it, right? And all of a sudden, Sunday morning, I get the text from Gooch, and all of a sudden, hey, wait a minute, timeout. Another 5th. Dished off 5th and a 6th. Oh, God. Let's all burn down Dallas. 5th and a 6th, and they acquire Brandon Cooks. Now, the Cowboys have been linked to OBJ. The Cowboys have been linked to DeAndre Hopkins. And while both of those guys, and I'll get into more into OBJ in a second, both of those guys seem like they would be great fits. They need to load up around Dak because a lot of people are, the pressure's on Dak Prescott now. It's like, all right, what's your excuse now, buddy? You know what I mean? Like, you have no excuse to not be successful in this offense. And, the Zeke thing was like a bad breakup for me. I felt like I just got dumped, and it was a gut punch. I didn't like it. I thought for sure they can get some kind of incentive thing going on with a restructure. And like, part of me wants to say like, he'll be back. Like on a very, very cheap deal, but I don't know if that's ever going to happen. Anyway, wait, hold on. We got something from Kyle here. There's a 0% chance or 0% chance the Cowboys win more games than the Jaguars this season. Scoop over the weekend. Well, I don't know. Anyway, we'll see. Sean Redden, local Eagle fan here, he's coming in saying, I'm impressed Brandon Cooks had traded considering Malcolm Jenkins murdered him in the Super Bowl 53. Yeah, I wouldn't get that crazy. But anyway, so the Cowboys are loading up, and it took nothing. And, they re-sign their own. They get LVE back, Donovan Wilson back. They're making moves in-house. And, of course, these trades come in. And it takes a lot for a James Rube, a friend of the show or a friend of mine, to admit to something that's good. But the Dallas Cowboys made 2 very good moves to improve their football team. The team that Sean Redden, who's checking in, likes is the Philadelphia Eagles, and they can't seem to bring back anybody. And I'm trying to figure out, why is that? Well, we all know why that is. And I know he knows too. The reason why the Eagles are losing so much talent, and you can't really count Jason Kelce coming back as an acquisition. Like he's going to come back, right? I mean, he's not done with football. He's a great football player. But the Eagles are loading up to pay Jalen Hurts. And I know the quarterback situation in every team Every team, you have to pay the quarterback. And once you do that, it makes things difficult, right? To surround them with all the talent in the world. And I know there's a lot of people that say, well, the cap's a myth. I'm one of those guys. I think the cap can be manipulated in so many ways that nobody's ever going to be like penalized for being over the cap, right? No, like Roger Goodell's not going to be like, Saints, I told you, because the Saints are in there in the red and they're paying $100 million to Derek Carr. So don't tell me that there's ways or no ways to manipulate this thing, right? So in any event, the Eagles are loading up to pay Jalen Hurts, and that's why they're losing their safety. They're losing their defensive tackle. They're losing Miles Sanders. Now, I know Miles Sanders was somebody that they could part ways with. Running backs all of a sudden have become like this position that nobody gives a rat's ass about, which is nuts to me because I really, truly think that you need a good running game in the NFL. I understand there's an air assault, and I understand that there's so many people out there that think it's a passing league, and it is, right? Primarily it is. But you need to establish something. You got to establish the run. You have to have a decent bell cow running back. And that's why I thought Zeke coming back would have been a decent thing. Not as the bell cow anymore because we saw the shift changing. Tony Pollard clearly took more of the carries, but I thought for sure that if he needed a blow, that a freshly rested Zeke might have been the play. So when Miles Sanders leaves town, I'm thinking, all right, cool. Great. They lost Miles Sanders, but then they bring in Rashad Penny. And if that guy's healthy, I want to say something positive here about the Eagles. And then I'm not totally burying the Eagles. Rashad Penny's a good back. If he's healthy, he's a good back. And you complement that with the 17 other guys that got behind him. Like the Eagles could still have a good running game in addition to Jalen Hurts, who's already a good runner. So again, it's one of those things where the Cowboys are doing things that I have never seen them do before. And then to see the rest of the NFC East, and I'm not saying anything bad about the Giants here because they get their quarterback. And again, I've said this plenty of times. If you know that's your guy, if Joe Shane and Brian Daboll, they know that Daniel Jones is the dude, then that's the guy you got to go get, right? Then that's the guy you got to sign. That's the guy you got to pay. Market price says, guess what? You got to pay him $40 million. That's the market. So go in and do that. Because if you lose Daniel Jones, what are you going to do? Where are you going to go? You're going to try to compete with Jimmy G. Who, by the way, signed with the Raiders. Where are you going to go? So if you know that's the guy, just pay the man what his market says he's worth, and that's it. You go, it's a bad contract, man. I can't believe they gave Daniel Jones $40 million. That's what you have to give him. That's if you want this guy on your squad, you have to pay him market price, and that's it. There's nothing you can do about that. Like you just have to do what you have to do. If Dallas wanted Dak Prescott, that's what you had to do at the time. And now Dak Prescott's contract is looking like pennies on the dollar compared to some of the guys that are about to get paid. Jalen Hurts is going to get his bag. Justin Herbert's going to get his bag. You got Joe Burrow is about to probably get the keys to Cincinnati, right? So that's what you can't necessarily, get all nuts about the numbers that they're giving out. Because that's exactly what they have to give out to get their guy. Now, is Daniel Jones Joe Burrow? No, I don't think so. Is he Justin Herbert? I don't know. Justin Herbert, to me, kind of fell off a little bit last year. Not fell off to the point where I'm just like writing him off into the sunset. He's still a great quarterback, but it's just like, I don't know. Show me the Chargers that were like this impressive team, right? I think their coach stinks, and now they got Kellen Moore over there. Good luck. Like Kellen Moore, look, he wants to go for the jugular at all times. And there has been times that the Cowboys were running up 40, 50 burgers, right? And that's great. Those are the games at Minnesota, right? We sparked Philly 2 years ago twice, scored like 90 points on Philadelphia. And when he dials it up and he's dialed in, he's great. He's great. But when you're trying to get a conservative game going, a good game plan going, Kellen Moore might not be your guy. But again, it is what it is. I digress with that. But I'm just going to go to the comments real quick because I know I'm not trying to be ignoring anybody. Ken Palmer's checking in. Thanks for checking in, Ken. Appreciate you, buddy. Let's see. Mark saying the Bears make the playoffs. Anything else is a bonus. Wow. All right, Mark, you're going from the number one pick to the playoffs. That's interesting to see. Ken Palmer's coming in saying the Raiders are the Pats B squad nowadays. Yeah, well, that seems to be a thing. The Eagles brought back 2023 All-Pro Brad. I still don't think Bradbury's any good. Graham, Cox, Kelsey extended. Slay was at the door for about 4 minutes, so I don't know what happened there. That's a little fractured. I don't care what you say. Yes, he got his money. Yes, he got his extension. There's something frayed about that. They lost Hargrave to average. Bro, see, that's the thing with the Eagles fans, and I'm going to just call you out right now on that. And this goes for every fan base. including the Cowboys. It's like until you lose the player, they're the greatest player on your team. You lose them, and you're like, well, he was all right, like average at best. But meanwhile, you were putting him in Canton last week. You know what I mean? So that's a big loss for the Eagles. I know you don't want to swallow that because you're still probably mourning the loss of the Super Bowl, but that's a big loss. They lost 2 key players on their defense. You say average linebackers. They were paid like they weren't average linebackers. So therefore, they're probably a little bit above average on the linebacker. The defense was good last year for the Philadelphia Eagles. You ship the coordinator out of town, and all of a sudden, like, well, it was all right. Like, that's not how it works. No, it's a big loss when it's something that your defense contributed heavily. A good defense for the Philadelphia Eagles contributed heavily to get them where they had to go, right? And I understand Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, they had the year that they had, and that's why ultimately the Philadelphia Eagles were a success. But, you're keeping people in games, and I know you let up some points here and there, and that's what again, you lost your D coordinator, and you're like, well, he sucked anyways. Like, no, man, he was good, and that's why he got a head coaching job. So that's not a thing. You can't do that. That's true, Scoop. That's very true. Scoop coming in saying, hey, we went from the number 1 pick to the playoffs. Well, you're not wrong. All right. So, yeah, I guess that could happen after all. Phillies used to shootouts. Now they just have to go. Okay. I'm not going to go there. Let's see. Kyle's coming in. Someone test Mark for methamphetamines. Yes, definitely. N'Kobe Dean, which was, I don't want to call him a bust yet because he's not. But, he's got to. I wanted. Listen, if anybody was with me at that draft, I wanted Dean, and then we drafted Tyler Smith to play left guard, who played left tackle, and then that turned out to be a great pick for the Cowboys. Don't get me wrong; it's going to be okay for the rest of his career. He's either going to be able to swing into left guard if Tyron's good, or swing out to tackle, and he'll be fine. So I think that's a good pick for the Cowboys. But I did like Dean going in. I wanted him for the Cowboys, so that's why I'm holding a gripe there. But anyway, to Odell Beckham Jr. for a second. Now, after this trade went through, a lot of people are saying, well, that means the Odell Beckham sweepstakes went somewhere else, right? The Cowboys were in on Odell. They wined and dined him last year. He wouldn't work out. So therefore, guess what, Odell? You don't get a contract if you don't work out and show me what you got. If you're still hurt, that's fine. If you're still not cleared, that's fine too. But don't bullshit your way into this. I don't think he was ready to go at all. So was I excited when the Cowboys brought him in? I was, because I thought it would be good for down the road. If you gave him a 2-year deal, I'd say, all right, you know what? Then once he's good and he wasn't going to play in the playoffs, there was no aspirations for that, even though everybody's like, he'll be ready for round 2. Like, no, it was never going to be a thing. But I will say I was excited to have OBJ in there, hang out with Diggs and Parsons and all this other stuff, right? And I was all excited. But then comes this incident that kind of got brushed under the rug, okay? There was the incident on the airplane where he wouldn't buckle his seatbelt or whatever, gave up some big song and dance, and all of a sudden he's kicked off the plane. Everybody gets kicked off the plane. You forget about that for a second, right? And then I'm like, all right, so maybe it's character issues, right? I know what these guys are worth and what market value is because we're seeing the numbers that are coming out, right? But I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to be the one to tell you this, that when you're looking at NFL athletes, nobody's going to come out there and say, I'm worth this or I want this. So there was a rumor that OBJ wanted $20 million a year. Now, right away, I'm like, that's laughable considering what everybody else is getting in the NFL, in the wide receiver market. That you just saw Thielen ink with the Carolina Panthers. You saw Juju. Everybody was getting like $11 million. Lazard went and got $11 million a year. I believe Jacoby Myers went over to Oakland or Vegas. He got $11 million a year. So that seemed to be the bargain price. OBJ wasn't going to sniff 20, right? But then I say like, all right, 15, 14. I'm okay with that. Like, that's where it's going to be. That's where his market's probably going to be. This dude goes on Twitter and debunks the $20 million rumor, which, you know what? That's probably a good thing. But he couldn't stop there. Odell Beckham Jr. couldn't stop there. He had to say, I don't know where this 20 million rumor came out. Bullshit, really, right? I'm paraphrasing. But then he goes, but I'm here to tell you that I'm not, or I'm worth way more than 4. So somebody out there, could have been the Cowboys, somebody out there offered him $4 million a year. So clearly, he thinks he's more than that. But that's not the way to play ball. right? And then you have Aaron Rodgers, who announced, since we've talked here on this show, Aaron Rodgers says, I'm going to the Jets. I want to play for the Jets, blah, blah, blah. And then the laundry list comes out of guys that he wants that was debunked to an extent. But OBJ was on there, and he said, like, who wouldn't want to play with him? So now I'm thinking OBJ to the Jets, and then you would have Beckham, Lazard, Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, Denzel Mims, your running game, and Aaron Rodgers. Look, this isn't Madden by any stretch, but it's pretty fucking good, man. I mean, that's a lot of fun on the offensive side of the ball. But again, what are the Jets going to be able to pay him after they give Rodgers what he's owed? And I don't know how that's going to go. I really don't. At this point right now, and I know I was one of the first ones, if not the first one on Chop Sports, the Facebook group, to say Rodgers is a Jet. That was when Trey Wingo tweeted it, right? But then when he did it on the McAfee show, I said, all right, Rodgers is a Jet. And now everybody's like, no, hold on, it's not official. And I'm like, shut up, it's official, stop, enough is enough. But I'm sitting there, I'm like, well, hold on now. You know what I'm saying? Like, all of a sudden, I'm thinking to myself, what's the holdup? Like what's actually happening behind the scenes? Now, the compensation is the conversation, right? I said Rodgers was not worth the first round pick, and I stood strong on that stance, and I still kind of stick strong on that stance. However, I say this a lot now lately. Yesterday's price is not today's price, meaning the Jets were kicking that can down the road a little too much. I think they got a little bullish. I think that the Jets got a little confident and cocky, because as soon as Rodgers said, I want to go play for the Jets, they put out the memes. They're all over Twitter, right? And I'm like, well, hold on now. Because if I'm the Packers, I'm like, well, hold on. Like, you think you got our guy? Because he's still with us. So what do you want to give up? Now I think this is absolutely going to cost the Jets 13th pick in the draft. First round, at minimum. I don't think it goes anywhere less than that, because if it does, that means the Packers folded. Right now, we're in a staring contest between Aaron Rodgers, the Packers, and the Jets. Now, I know Aaron Rodgers only literally has one feasible option he can do, and that's retire, because now the Packers have officially moved on. Jordan Love is QB1. That's done. So if the Jets trade doesn't happen, he's got to retire. And he's got to pull a Barry Sanders and just stay retired, and then he can come back when his contract's up. That's it. That's his only play. So there's no leverage in Aaron Rodgers' court anymore. Now it's all with the Packers. The Packers can make this happen, because if they don't want to make this happen, guess what? They still get to wash their hands. It's over, right? Clearly they want compensation, right? If they're going to trade off one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever do it. But how much compensation are we going to get now? Now all of a sudden the Jets they're kind of like, shit, maybe we shouldn't have put out that tweet. Like just a little extra confidence. It goes a long way sometimes, but in this regard, I don't know if they were the smart ones here. I think they jumped the gun. I think they got excited. Do I ultimately think the Jets are going to land Aaron Rodgers? I do. I'm still on that train, but I still think the Packers should stay put and say, you know what? You want him? Great. This is what it's going to cost. And there's no negotiation. There really isn't. Like, they hold the cards now. So the Jets are in limbo. The Jets are adding pieces that Rodgers wanted in Allen Lazard, potentially Beckham down the road. Like, these are pieces that he wanted, right? Maybe they even bring back Randall Cobb on like a 1-year vet minimum, right? This is everything they wanted. How dumb are the Jets going to look if they can't land this trade and Aaron Lazard is sitting there like, I just went from Aaron Rodgers to Zach Wilson. Fuck me, right? That's just not a good situation to be in at all. So I'm interested. I'll go back to the comments real quick. Kyle's coming in. Don't worry. I'm sure Aaron Rodgers and McAfee will have another 4 shows telling us nothing. Those lives tell. They love everyone spending their time and their money to hear zero information. Look, the best part about that Aaron Rodgers interview, first of all, I find Aaron Rodgers to be fascinating. I think he's a fascinating human being, and I think he's just spin right off the planet. He's like Gary Busey of the NFL, right? He's out there, right? But I will say that on the McAfee show, he's like, listen, this isn't an announcement. It's not an announcement show. Because I have an announcement. It's like, wait, hold on, wait. You just told me it wasn't an announcement show, and now you're like, no, the announcement's already been made last Friday. I already, in my third dream, I decided to play for the Jets. So it's like, okay, cool, I get it, but it's like, you're kind of contradicting yourself there, Aaron. And then him going out saying, I'm arguably the best player in the franchise history. I'm like, this guy, It's not wrong, but he's like Michael Jordan. Like, I'm the best and nobody is better than me, right? And I still think, and I stand put on this, as much of a quack as he is, I think that Aaron Rodgers is one of the best to ever throw that football. I really, that in my mind and my eyes, from what I've seen, people come out to like, Bradshaw was the best, or this guy, or Roger Staubach, or Johnny Unitas, right? Like guys that I've never seen play. So I'm just like, you're right. There's a comparison to be made. I've seen Brett Favre. I thought Brett Favre was one of the best to ever do it. I've seen Dan Marino. I think he laces the football faster than I've ever seen anybody do it. But when push comes to shove, I think Rodgers is in the Mount Rushmore of greatest quarterbacks to ever suit up. That's just my take there. It's not a hot take by any stretch, because there's a lot of people, including most Packer fans, that will argue that. I think the Packers having 3 of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game within their lineage is awesome, right? I mean, you had Bart Starr, you had Brett Favre, and now you have Aaron Rodgers. But now it's over. It's over. Like the shtick is up. It's over. Aaron Rodgers is out. I don't know exactly. I don't know when it's going to happen. I don't know if it's actually going to happen. But Aaron Rodgers' time in Green Bay is over. The New York Jets, you're on the clock, buddy. You guys have to pony up. You're the ones that have to do these certain things to get this done. I don't know if you do, but again, I digress, as they say in the biz. Shriek a leak, my man. I trust in Joey Duggs, but this draft as a whole stinks. So many average drafts involving this year. Fine by me. They'll get it done. Still don't think they give up 13. Again, I didn't think so either for a long time. But after they kind of shot themselves in the foot by doing the tweet, the Leonardo DiCaprio thing, right? Oh, that's me. They want me. I think right there was the moment where the Packers were like, who do you think you are? You know what I mean? You're trying to take Aaron Rodgers from us, and you think he's just because he says it, it's our guy now. So now I think the Packers are a little bullish, and I think they said, look, 13th and whatever else you want to do, but we want that first pick this year, because that would stack the Packers with the 13th and the 15th pick in the first round. Plenty of picks and plenty of weaponry to give a new Jordan Love. So I'm in on that. Back to the comments. QB1 is not the Jets' answer, period, according to Nicholas Smith. I mean, it is. I said it. I'm very confident in saying this. Last year, if the Jets had a competent quarterback and they don't lose the running back to injury, the Jets have a very good team, right? You add Aaron Rodgers to that, and then you get the running back next year, and then whatever else they add, I'll tell you right now, and I'm not hard pressed. And I'm not sitting there like, oh, here comes another hot take. No, the Jets will be in the talk, in the conversation to win the AFC East at minimum, right? And then they get in there. If I understand, the Rodgers will get bounced in the AFC Championship instead of the NFC. Like, you can make all the jokes you want, but this is the most talented roster that Rodgers has had in years. And I'm not debating that. And the best defense he's had in years. So if Rodgers gets added to the Jets, they are, without a shadow of a doubt, a contender to be in the title game. I'm not bullshitting you. This is my opinion. Again, you can roast me all you want, but I truly believe if you add Aaron Rodgers to that already established offense, you already got Lazard, right? You got the running game that you had last year. He'll be back, right? And of course, the defense, which is, again, Robert Saleh's bread and butter, is his defensive specialty. The Jets are a very, very good contender. And guys, we haven't even got to the draft yet, right? Even if they trade away their first round pick, they still got the other picks, right? Like, they can stockpile some talent. And I know Shrieks is a very good draft analyzer, and I love all his mock stuff. Go check him out on Twitter. And again, if he says it ain't deep, then it's probably not deep. And me and Chris have talked to somebody over on the Mojo Market Report about the receiver core that wasn't deep and the draft that just wasn't as deep. Like, that may be the case. But I think the Jets were there last year. Now you add one of the best to ever do it. I mean, the hell, you know. I think it's great, and I think the Jets are right there. Need Mangold back. Yeah, I agree. Anyway, back to the chat. Just scrolling up a little bit. Not much there. But anyway, going forward, I got some other stuff, some other business to attend to real quick. WrestlePro weekend. I know you guys might be pro wrestling fans. Maybe you're not, and maybe you tune out here, but I will say this. I've been in the pro wrestling game. I've been a fan all my life. I've been in a pro wrestling game since 2012. If you don't know this about me, I trained to become a pro wrestler under Pat Buck. It was called the PWS Dojo at the time, now transformed into the Creative Pro Academy, or whatever you want to call it, Creative Pro School in New Jersey. There's one in New York as well. these schools have produced a lot of talent. You know, both members of the Acclaimed, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, Bronson, the Iron Savages, all these guys that are running crazy all over either A, the independent scene, or B, you see them on your television every weekend. They were made there. So that's where I started before all these guys, right? And look, lo and behold, I wasn't the best, right? By any stretch. I learned the basics. I loved doing what I did. I loved performing, right? I had some really cool matches, really cool moments. I'm not about to sit here and say like I was definitely the best out of the school. I wasn't, right? Was I the most popular within the crowd? Yeah, I had the Woodbridge community behind me for about a year and a half, 2 years. Every event, they would show up in the masses, right? Like they would show up. My first match, I had like 150 people just there to see me, right? So there's so clearly Pat and Kevin and everybody that involved at the time saw dollar signs and they said, oh, all right, this kid, all right, let's push him a little bit and let's give him some bigger matches down the line because he could sell some tickets. And, you know, I didn't have to go out there and be like, please buy these tickets, please, or I can't wrestle. Like they just knew that had a decent following. So the early going of WrestlePro was very, very interesting for me. I was put in a stable, right, with Kevin Matthews, Reality Check, right? Yeah, checks. It was fun, right? That was the push. That was like, hey, man, you and Damian Gibbs, you guys are gonna have a great time. It's gonna be cool. It's like their version of DX, right? Where just, you know, screw the rules, right? Suck it. Instead of suck it, it was check marks up, whatever. It was fun, right? 2014 comes around. I have a couple good matches. I tag up with another member of Chop Sports community, Adam O'Reiner, the Big O. We had a nice, you know, 2-month run, I guess it was, until Adam, I think he broke his ankle, right? And then I had to go on a singles run. And then when he was ready to come back, I tore my ACL right after my world famous match. And I say world famous, and I mean that in every way, shape, and form, with Hacksaw Jim Duggan. I know you guys out there, you know who Hacksaw is. Well, me and him went toe to toe, all right, in Belleville, my birth city. Okay, I was born in Belleville, right? So it was Belleville Bedlam. Me and Hacksaw, we went at it, right? I lost to Hacksaw Jim Duggan. You know, at the time, he was a prime age of like 60. So I definitely was still an old timer, but it was fun, right? We had a great time. I tore my ACL right after that. Now, the story kind of leads into me recovering, but also realizing like, okay, I went to broadcasting school in 06, 07. I wanted to be in broadcast media forever. I wanted to be a writer for the Cowboys. I wanted to cover all this shit, right? This is what I wanted to do with my life. So why not tell Pat, the owner, hey, or ask Pat, can I be on the commentary team? Can I do some backstage interviews? Can I do some of the media stuff? And I did, and I was good at it, right? I was doing some commentary. I got to interview like Booker T in the back and the British Bulldog son, Davey Boy Smith Jr., and a lot of cool names that I got to meet via being in the media, right? The media part of it. So that was that. And I realized, all right, do I want to come back to wrestling or do I want to stick with this? My ego got ahead of me and I said, you know what? Fuck that. I got this back. I got to get back out there and finish what I started, right? So I go out there. I have a couple Rumble spots. I know a lot of the guys, true story, supposed to come back on a Rumble, and I did come back on the Rumble. But I was going to come back with like jeans and a tank top and show everybody that like I just took the button down off and now I'm back in the ring, you know, instead of like putting on the full gear, right? And I was doing squats in the back just to kind of warm up, get the knees rolling, because again, I was coming off injury, and my jeans split right down the middle of the ass, and I was like, cool, now what? I had to go to my bag, and I'm like, well, I got these sweatpants. Guess I'm going to go out there in that. So I look like a fucking gym teacher going out there in a Rumble in my big comeback match. So that's a running joke between Jay Silva, Brian Myers, and all those guys. But anyway, I do a one-on-one match with Eddie Spaghetti, who is he was Philip Simon II at the time. Now, lo and behold, my guy Eddie is an NXT referee, so you can see him every Tuesday night on the USA Network. That's a true story, right? So these guys, they blossom into some just amazing stars. So after that, I had a match with him. I crushed him. He let me do it. Like, that's called doing the job. You let me come back. You let me spear you, or spear, which is a tackle, football tackle. And that's all she wrote. I'm the bang. You know, I'm the winner. I win. Right? World is great again. Then I went kind of back into the media again, like without even announcing anything. I was just like, And then there's a guy who's running crazy around WrestlePro, literally. Christopher Avery Kuling. He was like a psych ward type character, right? But he was mangling folks. And I was like, dude, wait a minute. Like, I was like, this would be perfect. why don't we do like a Rocky 3? And when I say Rocky 3, why don't I hype this thing where Destruction's going to come back and he's going to take down this psychopath and he's going to rule the day, right? And I hype it and I hype it and I keep talking shit. And then he clubber langs me and just beats me to dust. And that ends my career, not by design. Okay. I got clocked in the back of the head where the 1, 2, 3 count hits. I don't know what the hell just happened. I have loved ones in the crowd that I can't see after the match. And I'm like blurred eyed. I'm like, the referee had to tell me, I said, all right, when's the finish? He's like, it's over, buddy. Like, you already got pinned. And I was like, okay, something happened, right? Got home that night, threw up all over the place. Horrible concussion, right? It sucked. But I was like, you know what? At this time, I was like, let me just, eventually, at the time, I was like, eventually I'm going to have kids. Eventually I'm going to have a family. Eventually I'm going to live this life that I want to live. Maybe I should get out now, right? Get out before it all goes to complete shit. You've seen these wrestlers, they hang on too long. Not everybody. Some guys are still doing it. Look, one of my good friends, best friends, Kevin Matthews, he's 40, and he just absolutely burned the building down the other day. So he's doing great. So guys can still go, but then there's guys like, and this is no offense, some of the guys that I'm watching, these legends, they just can't let go, but they also can't walk into the building without guidance. So it's like it's not a good scene. And I was already in that recovery 2014. I got into like the pain pills and drinking, and it was just a bad time. So I was just like, if I get out now on my own accord, I'll go into the broadcasting thing. I'll be the voice of WrestlePro. Here we go. And that's what I did. So I retired in 2016 on my birthday, nonetheless. I got the shit kicked out of me on my birthday. But anyway, that was the end of that. Fast forward, right? Fast forward all the way to this weekend, where things have been really, really moving forward in the media department, in the social media department, in the streaming media department. I'm here to also tell you that I've been producing a Fight Factory, right? The Chop Sports Fight Factory right here it was on this YouTube channel. We decided to join another YouTube channel and kind of start when they're on our own. We got picked up by Pro Wrestling TV. Pro Wrestling TV also dropped us on our face and I'm not even saying that in the nicest way. I'm not going to say what I heard over the weekend. However, we're going to be leaving Pro Wrestling TV on our own accord before things get completely blown off the face of the earth. We're going to be joining the guy you see on your screen right now, and that's Josh Chernoff and his Premier Streaming Network, which we have a lot of content. You can see me and Gooch on there on Wednesdays. You could see the Pro Football Newsroom. You could see all these guys. It's a streaming network, much like your Netflix. If you just go on it, there's categories everywhere. We're going to be the guys to corner the market in the sports department. But now, starting the Friday after WrestleMania, I'm bringing the Fight Factory over to the Premier Streaming Network. And I think it's a big move for the guys. Wrestling Rob, Tommy D, those guys deserve it. They put in the work. They do the research. They're very passionate wrestling fans, and I think they're great at what they do. They need a bigger and better platform. So I talked to Josh over the weekend, and I said, it's time to, break bread and bring these boys over there. So congratulations to those guys. I'm very, very excited about that. At least Mickey made it through. That's true too. But yeah, anyway, so that's an announcement that I had for them. So congrats again. Yeah. Mark's saying it right now in the chat. Tommy and Rob are great. Those guys, they know their shit. They're hilarious. They're funny dudes. I have a lot of fun each and every time that I'm producing them. I might have to go a little hands off because they do like to go in on a certain company that I may or may not have a boss that works for that company. So I was just like, do I really want to tread those waters? No, I don't really have an opinion on pro wrestling a lot. I really don't, because I used to say this to a lot of the up and comers. Stop talking shit about the place you want to be. Don't shit where you eat. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of these guys are like, oh, I can't believe they put the belt on this guy. I'm like, didn't you just wrestle in front of a VFW the other day? Like, who are you? So I never got into that realm. I'll get on a fan once in a while for being a complete mark and a complete jerk off. But, again, that's another story for another day. So I've been doing that thing with WrestlePro. They're delivering each and every month. I love it. It's my favorite thing to do. When I go to a WrestlePro event, it's one of my favorite days of the month, right? We usually run once a month. Kevin has graced me with the opportunity to go to Alaska. Would I've ever gone in my life to Alaska otherwise? Probably not, right? So I went to Alaska via WrestlePro. So I am cruising with that company as their head commentator. Now, I brought in Josh Chernoff. They brought in Josh Chernoff when we were on Fight, and then we left Fight as WrestlePro, and all of a sudden Josh Chernoff launched the Premiere. So now we're streaming on Premiere, which me and Josh unbelievable. I think I've never had better chemistry with a color analyst like a Josh Chernoff. I think him and me both having experience in the ring helps us a little bit, right? Because again, he was once upon a time, which again, I think I found out over the weekend. It's like, wait, you worked once? He was a wrestler once upon a time. So he knows the ins and outs. He's been in this business for like 20 years, dude. So first of all, I think he started when he was like 15. So he's been around for a long time. If I started when I was 15, I would be in the business that long too. But I think we're around the same age. We're both kicking 40's door down eventually, right? But that's what I wanted to do. I think we're very good at what we do each and every month. Now, to this weekend, which, by the way, great action, incredible. It always is, right? And I think that me and a couple other guys with WrestlePro, we want to put together a show, almost like a web series on the Premier Streaming Network for WrestlePro alone, showcasing certain wrestlers, up-and-comers, big storylines, all that jazz. It's going to be great. And it's in production right now. Or like we're starting to kind of do that thing. Okay, Bailey. Let's calm down. What's up, though? How you doing? Thank you for tuning in. So this past weekend, again, banger after banger. I met this guy, Nick Wade, which, again, he's 17, but he's bursted onto the scene. Him, Joey Janela, and El Gringo Loco, which, again, not familiar with until that night. Great match. Kevin Matthews went against Vargas, who Vargas you'll see is a big Jets fan. When he doesn't put the makeup on, he's a big Jets fan. But he's got a new manager, and Chris Robinson. One was like a Harvey Whippleman type deal. I know you old school heads will understand what I'm talking about there. Like a little weasel as a referee at one point, turned manager. I'm pretty sure Harvey Whippleman started as a referee, so therefore that happened. But so just to kind of shed some light and pull back the curtain a little bit, I've been in wrestling, as I said, for 11 years. One of the first guys to take me under his wing was Dan Moff. Dan Moff is a legend in the business. He is an absolute star. He's always been. He's the Benjamin Button, I call him, of professional wrestling, because as he gets older, he's actually getting better. He's a crazy person. If you've ever heard him talk or cut a promo, he's an absolute savage, right? The guy is a complete wacko, but in the best way possible when it comes to professional wrestling. Now, when I came up, I'm a big Brock Lesnar guy, as some of you people have seen on the Chop Sports social, where I got roasted saying Brock Lesnar would beat DC in a UFC fight. But a big Brock Lesnar guy. So when Brock Lesnar first got back to the WWE, he had these Everlast boots. They were like almost as light as a boxing shoe or a light as a wrestling shoe, but it went up to like mid calf, right? And I was like, I want to wear those. That's what I want. So that's what I bought. It wasn't until referee Keenan, who, and again, friend of mine, he's a referee for NWA Power and NWA and all that stuff. And he's great. He's a success. He was the referee in the final deletion with Matt and Jeff Hardy. He goes, hey, man, get yourself some boots, dude. You know, you're a pro wrestler. Get yourself some boots. And so I was like, all right, I will. And I went to practice a couple days later. And I was talking to Moff, and Moff's, I was like, yeah, Keenan thinks I need boots. He's like, you do need boots. And I was like, all right, so I'll save up some money and get some boots. I was working for my dad at the time. I wasn't making a lot of money. So I was like, I'll get some boots. The next practice, Moff comes to me and he goes, here. And he gives me a pair of his old wrestling boots, same size as me. And I was like, what? He's like, these boots have been to Japan. These boots have wrestled CM Punk. These boots have wrestled Mick Foley. These boots have he's naming the Rolodex of guys that this guy's rolled through, and he's giving them to me. And I'm like, whoa, dude. And again, I'm brand new in the business. And I'm like, dude, you don't have to, like, I'll buy my boot. He's like, no. Destruction, you're my guy. Yeah, you're gonna live up to that name. You're gonna start taking names. And this is early. So I was like, yeah, you're right. And like at this point, I'm like, no, I'm not. So he gives me his boots, and it was great. Right. So Moff, I've always been a fan of his. He's like the godfather of WrestlePro. He's one of the pillars that built the business. He's one of the guys that built the Rawway Rec Center, even before WrestlePro was around. This past weekend, over the last couple months, Moff has kind of turned his back on the crowd. Right. And that's fine. He's been a heel for life. He likes that role. Great. What Moff did over the weekend, he was coming out for his match. And he's been talking some shit on Twitter. I even had some of my family members like, is he really mad at you? And I'm like, I can't figure this guy out. He's a wacko. No, probably not. You know, he loves me, right? He loves me. Deep down, he's a big teddy bear, right? So Moff has a match over the weekend. against GKM, one of the up-and-coming stars of WrestlePro. He's a fantastic athlete. Go check him out. Reminds me of Kofi Kingston, and he's a flyer. He's great. They have a match. It's over. What happened before the match, Moff comes out. He's been telling me that Josh Chernoff is better than me. So he comes up to Josh Chernoff, shakes his hand. I have a Monster Energy drink, and he flicks it at me, and it goes all over me. I got a suit jacket on. My hair's done. I'm like, come on. Like, do anything else. Just flip me off, which he did. Flip me off, and we're good. And that was that. He wins his match. That's history. He leaves. He's still yapping at me, and I'm just like, all right, Moff, go. Just get the hell out of here. So the main event happens. We're supposed to have a interim champion meet the real champion and then unify the belts, and we're going to have one world champion. That can't get done because Moff comes back out, right? So Moff comes back out. He ruins the whole thing, but he doesn't come alone. He's equipped with two new dudes, right? One guy being named Trax, and another guy is Victor Benjamin, the gentleman, the Savage Gentleman, whatever. Two bald goose. And it's funny. Both of those guys had a tag team match in the pre-show, right? Nick kicked the shit out of the Rat Bastards, who I've had a little bit of a spiff with, right? I don't even know if spiff's a word. A tiff. How about that? And where Xander Torres got his face kicked off, and it was great. And they won. And I said, these two guys could one day be tag team champions. That's how good they are, right? They're built like brick shit houses. They're just huge. One's power, one's speed, one's got educated feet. One could just beat the piss out of you. So these guys are great. You stack them with Moff now, they come running out with Moff, and they're causing this whole scene. So that's how it ended. And Dion Roosman, who's, again, another phenomenal guy. He was in there with LSG trying to unify the belts. They couldn't get it done. The show ends and goes off the air with me saying, like, we'll see you next month after Roosman hits this massive dive. And their next month will be a triple threat TLC match, tables, ladders, and chairs, for the championship. Moff has now inserted himself in that, right? Now, it's what happened off the air that really kind of pisses me off a little bit. And I'm not trying to break the fourth wall or trying to break kayfabe or whatever you want to call it. But after the match was over, and the kind of like not the house lights come up, but like people know it's over. The show is done. Moff is making his way towards the commentary table with his newfound goons, right? And I'm just like, here we go. He's going to talk some more shit and go right off into the sunset. Moff comes in there and he says, talk your shit now, Sturch. And I'm like, I'm not going to talk any shit, man. Like, just match is over. Congrats. You're in the main event next month. Good job. And he gives me one of the mushes to the face. And I'm like, come on, man. Like, I'm an announcer now, man. Don't do that. Right. Just leave me alone. Go do your thing. He does it again, this time with a little bit more force. So it kind of takes me back a little bit. When I turned around, the only thing I saw was Victor Benjamin's foot. He hits me with some kind of wheel kick, and I go flying. The next thing I know, I'm on my back, and I'm getting stomped out by all three guys. Now I'm an announcer, okay? And I'm going to bring this up. This is the only footage they have of this, and that's it happening. This is the aftermath. Those three Neanderthals decided to stomp me out. Like, and I'm like, even a couple of the guys that were helping me up were like, was that, this is wrestling, guys. That's me on the ground. Like, this is wrestling. Was that part of the script? I said, no, it wasn't. Right. So where do we leave that now? Where do we leave this? Like, I'm an announcer, got a family. I'm trying to go that route. Right. And then, he does this, and it's not something I asked for, clearly. Because I'm always respectful to everybody. But those three bald bitches just lost all my respect, and it won't happen again. I am an announcer, but don't you ever, ever forget where I started, okay? Because that's how I'll leave it. And that's how I'll leave this show today. I want to thank everybody for watching and for tuning in and to share this out. But I'm telling you right now, that shit won't happen again. Have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your week. NFL free agency rolls on. If you want to check out me and Gooch, we're live on the Premier streaming network on Wednesday. Now I'm kind of like flustered, and I didn't want to get flustered, but I am. It is what it is. But yeah, that's where I'm at. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you as well. Like the video, subscribe, share it out, tell everybody about it. I'll be back next week with some more, hopefully more sports. But thank you guys for listening to my entire story about where this all came from. Got guys on there. Yep. So Sean Red and fuck that. We'll be there to have in crack. I got one more match. Get him, Dave. Look, here's the thing. I'm healthy now. You know, like I feel good. I go to the gym. I mean, my ankles are a little banged up and I don't know why, but like I feel relatively healthy. If anything would come back into my life in the world of professional wrestling, I would do it against the guy that looked like this big. You know what I mean? Like I can rough him up and be that. These guys are crazy people. But I guess we'll see what happens if they try it again. And that's how I'll leave it. Thanks everybody for watching. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.